Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 652nd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I am your stand-in host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, we have Justin at the moment. Hopefully, Des is going to join us shortly as well. Matty and the lads go live on YouTube from 8 o'clock most Sunday evenings. The ad-free Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everyone listening through the week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Sports Social. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice in case you have forgotten throughout the entire month of March. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Yes, I'm standing in for Matty here. He might join us, he might not. A couple of guys in the chat already. Joshua Williams is floating about in there. Welcome to you. Michael Thompson, chat regular, has nothing better to do on a Saturday morning, seemingly, and nothing better to do on a Sunday evening either. He's joined us along with the 4,136. So word must have got out that Wellington's back on the mic here, 4,136 in the chat currently. We are going to be talking about Usyk later on, who's been all over the news, as Justin said to me just before we started. A bit of Owen Cooper, why not? Fought on Saturday night on the Queensbury show. J.R. Pataya's next week. We have a few news and notes and all bits and pieces like that. We shall start, though, no less, over in the Desert Diamond Arena, Glendale, Arizona. I bet it's nice there. I bet it's lovely and warm. Oscar De La Hoya used to promote shows from there once upon a time, but it was Eddie Hearn and Matchroom last night as Emanuel Navarrete managed to get rid of Eduardo Sugar Nunez in the 11th round. A more artificial sweetener than sugar, unfortunately, for Nunez in this super featherweight world title unification clash. IBF on the line, WBO also. Navarrete goes home with both the belts propping up his trousers. Justin, I think a few things sprung to mind after watching this fight last night. The whole respect thing beforehand, Nunez going on about how much he respected Navarrete, how much he was a fan of him, he honoured him, etc. I think Nunez showed Navarrete far too much respect in the ring as well as out the ring. And by the time Nunez threw caution to the wind, he started taking a few chances, started coming forward, trying to let those heavy bombs go. His eye was already closing up and he just couldn't beat the clock in the end to find the punch that he needed because I think he started too slowly because he stood off and gave Navarrete too much respect.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It was Eduardo Splenda Nunez. I think that's what I said last night. I think that was a part of it. He showed Navarrete has not showed anything in the last 3 or 4 fights for Nunez to come out. I wouldn't say scared, but think about this. The announcer said it. We all saw it. They didn't have to explain it to us. This was a game plan that Nunez has never done before in his entire life. He is not a back foot boxer. So the first round, you're thinking, okay, maybe he just wants the taste of power. He just wants to kind of get a feel. But after 4 rounds of doing that, because he's not a counterpuncher, he's not a back foot guy, they completely gave up the first 4.5, probably the first 5 rounds, if you want to be honest, of just doing something they never do. And like you summed it up. Once he gave those 4 or 5 rounds up, Navarrete had he was ready, he was into it, he had the momentum, and he didn't let that go. This is the best Navarrete's looked in 3 years. He has not looked this good in a long time. He was bouncing. He looked like the old Navarrete. Part of that was Nunez. It was a weird fight, a fight that he wasn't going to win the way he was fighting. And like you said, when he started to turn it on, you're already down 5 rounds probably. So then you've got to open yourself up more to try to catch up to what you've already given up. Navarrete has shown you're not going to knock him out. He has got a great chin. He's hard to hit. I mean, he's easy to hit, but you're not going to really hurt him that bad. It was a horrible game plan. I don't know. It reminded me of the Chris Algieri-Pacquiao fight where they're like, we're going to give up the first 7 rounds to try to – it was a bad strategy. It was a stupid strategy. Nunez, it was just bad. I don't know. I can sit there and say that. I'm not really going to sound real eloquent on this. I don't get what they were going for. You don't do that for 4 or 5 rounds. And Teddy Atlas always used to say this, and it's true. You don't, in the middle of a fight where your eyes closing up, you're in a war. You don't. Nunez was walking up to Navarrete after interview, and he was wanting to put his glove out and like tap him up and like, hey, good round. You don't do that shit. And Navarrete was like, okay. He just kind of went with it. But Nunez was engaging in that. And I do believe that he gave way too much respect for Navarrete. He was thought that he was fighting a guy from 4 or 5 years ago. He got away from what works for him. And then when you have to put your head down and really go for it, that's what Navarrete wants. And he just started piecing him up. And it was a stupid strategy. It's all his fault. That's the worst I've ever seen Nunez fight. I think the occasion, it's obviously now, the occasion was too big for him. He just wasn't ready for it. It was too big. He got caught up in the whole Navarrete image, the whole Mexican versus Mexican. It was all too big for Nunez. And Navarrete is this weird. It's turning back the clock, however you want to say he did it, but he looked like the Navarrete 2 or 3 years ago. He looked like a different man. He looked so shit in his last 3 fights. And now he's back to prime Navarrete. It was interesting. Nunez he could only blame himself for 80% of that last night.
Yeah, I think you touched upon a good point towards the end there. I was thinking to myself, maybe Nunez went in and he felt like a guy who was a bit overawed, who felt like he knew his level and he wasn't able to fight to the level of Navarrete. He saw a guy who'd won world titles at numerous weights, who he really revered, he really respected. And he kind of felt inside like he wasn't able to reach that level himself. But at the end, I think you summed it up better than me by saying he was a bit overawed by the occasion, and I think that bleeds into it. I think the occasion was too big for him. I think the opponent was physically and reputationally. I mean, Emanuel Navarrete, we're talking about here. He wasn't fighting Julio Cesar Chavez. I mean, no disrespect to Navarrete, like, but he just felt overawed, like by the reputation.
And they're like the same age almost. It's not like you just you just said it perfectly. He wasn't fighting Chavez. He wasn't fighting an all-time great. But you could just see, like, at the press conference and the way he walked around the ring and his facial expressions, he was just overwhelmed. It was too much for him. And Navarrete was he looked 3 times bigger than Nunez did. He looked so much because he didn't have to worry about the rehydration. So he just looked so much bigger. Nunez couldn't hurt him. And Nunez landed some hellacious body shots that didn't do anything. And I think once Nunez realized he couldn't hurt him, it was just, and like I think Sergio Mora put it, there was too many points in that fight where Nunez was scared to throw. He was in the pocket, he was there, he just could not let his hands go. And you can't stand in front of a Navarrete because he's going to let his hand. We know he's going to let his hands go. He's not going to stand there and wait. It just he wasn't ready for it. I think Nunez probably hit his level. And obviously Navarrete he's below this level because it was just 2 different guys in there last night. But I liked it for the fact of we got Navarrete back. We're going to see him in more wars now because he's going to keep pumping. He looked good. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. He said, I'm going to bust him up. I'm going to stop him. I'm going to turn back the clock. I'm going to shut people up, and I'm going to look good. And exactly what he did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the fact Nunez stood off as well made the height and size differentiation.
He was back foot boxing for a guy
bigger. Yeah.
You're boxing a guy that, like you said, way bigger, and he's doing something. We've probably seen Navarrete. I mean, Nunez has been on our radar now for like 8-10 fights probably. He has never fought that way in his entire career, and then you decide all of a sudden in your biggest fight that I'm going to be completely different. And I do believe that his corner thought we have to fight like this because we can't beat Navarrete head to head. We can't beat him in a war. We have to do this. And they just screwed themselves up.
Yeah, he's a funny fighter, Nunez, because obviously he won the title last year and made the one defense, but he beat Rikishi. But his biggest win, really, I suppose, even including the Rikishi win, I would say, was in 2024, a fight that doesn't even show up on his box rec because it was an IBA pro fight in the end. A very close fight at the time. I remember watching it against Rakhimov, who since fell off a cliff. The 2 of them fought in Dushanbe in Uzbekistan or Tajikistan or one of them countries, I can't remember. And it was a very close fight until he managed to stop him in the 11th round. But that doesn't even adorn his record because it's kind of tucked away on the other side of the box.
But it's funny. Navarrete, they asked him what he thought about Nunez and Nunez power. And I remember announcers were talking about it. And I remember when he said it, he was trying not to be disrespectful, but he was like, he hasn't fought shit. Like, he really hasn't fought anybody that's close to my level. His power is not real. Navarrete kept telling everybody it's fake power, and he was right. It was not that. It was not a Navarrete level. But it's funny that Charlie Suarez come with more balls than Nunez did last night. I mean, I hate to say it like that. Nunez showed some fight at the end of the fight, but he had to have that from round one. That's what Suarez. You remember Suarez come out?
Yes, I do.
And
Yes.
in round one, minute one, he was going at him. He was not letting Navarrete take the play. And Navarrete, you can't let him get his foot forward and take the play from you. Suarez didn't allow that. And Nunez did. That's the difference. Navarrete, you've got to come at him some. You can't let him get going. And it was just his corner. And then they let him go a couple extra rounds. He should have never went a few more extra rounds with his eye like that. It was like the Rocky movie. He couldn't even see.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the doctor played that one quite well actually, because he kind of looked at him and there was no blood at the first time he checked him, and he said, "Okay," he pulled the eye open and he could tell that like the swelling hadn't gone right deep into it, and he said, "Right, carry on." But then as soon as he went back the next round and the blood had appeared and all, the doctor I think if the doctor had let him go on, I think that would have been a bit egregious. But I kind of think they just got that spot on. But I think Nunez, it comes back to strategy and confidence, really. I mean, surely he must have worked with that on his team. I don't think he would have just gone out there and decided to box like that on the night. I wouldn't have thought so. They must have realised and worked out that that was the best strategy for them. But I don't think that was a good strategy. The aircraft carrier in the chat says Sugar Nunez got punished. Nunez lost every round. Nunez's corner is terrible, by the way, says the aircraft carrier. His black was so bad it got busted open. Who else is in the chat here? Nunez was badly overmatched, but the crazy thing is Nunez was the betting favourite. Ass whooping. Navarrete is a horrible puncher, though. Underrated skill, I think, says Michael Thompson. Yeah, I think it's underrated skill the way he gets in those angles. He gets those shots off as well. You don't know, do you, where they're coming from?
It looks bad. That's the problem with Navarrete. It just looks so fundamentally wrong that it's hard to realize that he actually he does things well. It just looks bad visually the way because he does his footwork. It's so awkward, but it works. It just doesn't look great. He's not a pure boxer at all, but hell, it works for him. And Nunez, this is going to be a hard loss to come back from. The way it'll be hard. I don't know how you come back from this. It was just such a demoralizing beating at times in the end. I don't know how. But like I said, you don't go into the biggest fight of your career and then try to do a 180 on who you are. And that's what really put him into a fight he didn't need to be in.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment. And also, momentum, I think, is key in boxing. I mean, punch stats, they can kind of tell the true story, what we see, or they can tell a different story. But in this case, I was looking at them earlier, and it said Navarrete outlanded Nunez by 236 to 140, according to CompuBox. I mean, that's nowhere near enough 140 punches for Nunez landed, who is known as a pressure fighter. And I think you mentioned Navarrete's awkwardness there. His long arms played a huge factor. And also his punching power, I think, made Nunez very reluctant to step inside. Like I was saying, Nunez should have tried to get inside and do this. But when he realised that his power wasn't having the effect at the world level that it's had at previous levels, again, didn't have that effect in the Rikishi fight, didn't have that effect in the Diaz fight. He wasn't able to really put a dent in them. And the scorecards in the Rikishi one was quite close. I think he maybe dropped Diaz once or twice, but he wasn't able to land the shots on Navarrete. When he did, they weren't having a massive effect. And then when Navarrete was catching him back with shots, they were hurting him. So that made him reluctant to get back inside as well, I think. So poor Nunez, he was just demoralised, man. He had nothing to encourage him, did he, Justin, to say, keep going with this strategy, son.
No, because
what was he supposed to do?
No, because everything he landed, even if it was perfect, Navarrete his head didn't even move hardly. It was like, I can imagine if you're in there and you think, because Nunez thinks he is a power puncher, but looking at his record now, you're right. When he has stepped up the level, it's not what he thinks it is. And when you land the best shot you can possibly land, and the other guy doesn't even move. Yeah, I mean that has to suck a lot of energy out of you. It has to, because that's your whole thing, is that their power. And if Navarrete landed on the elbow, Nunez moved. Everything he landed, because Navarrete has like concrete hands. They're not he's not like a one punch, I'm going to knock you out in the first round type guy. He is just a sledgehammer that slowly just beats the semen into pieces. And that's what he was doing to Nunez. Everything he landed, you could tell, hurt. It might not, we're going to knock him out, but it hurt him. So good on Nunez to go as long as he did, because there was, when we got past like into round 8 or 9, you watched that fight, you knew he's not going to stop Navarrete. He's just going to survive. And if it wasn't for the eye, he probably would have survived. I think he would have got through the 12, but that eye was jacked up.
Yeah, Michael Thompson says, I think Nunez wasn't allowed to get going by Navarrete. His jab was really good too. Just before we look at what's next, just a bit of love for Navarrete, I think, as a fighter, because he has some good wins on his record as well, and he kind of gets rid of overmatched opponents. I'm not really leveling this at Nunez necessarily, but guys in the past, I'm looking through his record now. I remember when he burst on the scene against Isaac Dogboe. If I remember, Dogboe had beaten Magdaleno to win the title. He was expected not to just breeze through Navarrete, but it was a defense really against the guy who already lost, and he gave Dogboe a really good going over that time, and then he stopped him in the rematch, dropped him multiple times. Even guys like Francisco de Vaca, 20-0, remember that one? Battered him. Juan Elorde, the grandson, think of the great Flash Elorde, 28-1. Good records, these guys. Battered him as well. Ruben Villa, 18-0. That was actually a very underrated win. Villa was a good
fight.
Villa was a bit of a prospect, with top rank. He was a very good amateur.
And power.
For the rounds that he wasn't getting knocked down by Navarrete in rounds 1 and 4, Villa was winning rounds. He was outboxing him at times, and Navarrete showed a lot of different elements to his game. Again, Joet Gonzalez, that win's aged well, because Gonzalez has gone well with people, everyone he's faced. Valdez as well. Conceição, that ended up in a draw. Liam Wilson, I mean, we've talked about that before. That was a farce with the scales and all. And then the revenge win over Valdez looked really, really good, stopping him in the 6th round. You mentioned the Charlie Suarez fight, and now stopping Nunez as well. He's put the wins together, really. He's been a really exciting sort of belt holder, and he hasn't always fought the best guys in the world, but he's fought anyone who's been put in front of him, Justin. And occasionally guys like Baranchik, for example, from what I remember, the Baranchik fight, it was kind of one of them ones where some people online were saying they had Baranchik a handy winner, others were saying they had a Navarrete a handy winner. So that one could have kind of gone each way. But he's dealt with a lot of different styles, those guys that I've mentioned down his resume there. They're not all the same kind of style.
Well, it's funny how far you go back. That Dogboe was actually the favorite in that first fight. That seems 20 years ago now. We know now that was stupid that Dogboe was the favorite. He wasn't at that level, and I think Navarrete pretty much ended Dogboe's career, those 2 fights. He's not even fighting anymore, is he? I think that was about the end of Dogboe's run, because Navarrete,
it was 24 hard rounds.
Hard. Yeah, he really took a punishment, and that pretty much about ended his career, because he just too tough for his own good was Dogboe in those fights. He stayed in too long. They should have pulled him earlier than they did at times. Well, I think they kept saying it on would Navarrete go down as a Mexican legend or great? He will go down as a great Mexican fighter. Will he be a legend? That's a different story. I don't think he'll be a legend as will he be a top 10, 15 Mexican of all time? Yeah, you could argue that if you want to. I don't think he'll go down as a legend. He's not in the Chavez level or Eric Morales or Barrera and all them, but he's had a great career and it's so funny is he's got a great career for a guy that he's not naturally talented. He's just tough and awkward, and he's good at what he does. And sometimes you don't have to be technically gifted if you're really good at what you do. And that's what Navarrete is one of these guys you're always going to watch him fight. Now, will this eventually hit a wall? Yes. Navarrete will get stopped. He will go too far. That's just what happens with this style. But you might as well enjoy it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's certain styles he's not going to be able to beat. I think they were pushing him towards the Shakur fight at one point in Top Rank, but I mean, he said that himself. He doesn't box like Stevenson. Stevenson would just box rings around him.
Yeah, he would piece him up. That would be a Stevenson. It's not an easy fight for Stevenson, but how Stevenson fights, it would just be, let me master the basics like I always do, and Navarrete really couldn't get to him. He would just, his back foot would be way different than Nunez's back foot. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He would punish Navarrete for coming in. Nunez didn't. That was the difference.
No. Well, Nunez was on the back foot trying to get out the road, I think was the problem. Let's see what the boys in the chat are saying. I got Navarrete over Shock Foster. Ray Ford will be talking about that next. Motorskill 66 says, what's next for West Ham? I don't know, liquidation, I think. Michael Thompson, Navarrete, one of the best Mexicans around in ages. Thomas Newman, good to see Thomas there. Will be a tough road back for Nunez, especially now he doesn't have a belt. Yeah, it will be. It absolutely will be. He's an opponent now. Kakachi versus Dickens winner isn't really an option. Ray Ford would be a good fight. Ray Ford versus Oshaki Foster is likely later this year. Yazza Dickens gives Navarrete a test, says Yumi Yapi. He has quality motor skills. Well, he might not have a belt after he fights Kakachi next week or the week after. I think if he wins Undisputed, he can become a Mexican legend as the aircraft carrier. Yeah, Undisputed would be good. So WBA is Jazza Dickens. Kakachi's fighting him in Dublin in a couple of weeks' time. I expect Kakachi to win that fight. So Navarrete, Kakachi, that would be interesting. Oshaki Foster's the WBC champion. I think his movement and his jab and his ability skills would give Navarrete trouble because he's very good fundamentals. Aircraft carrier disagrees about the Stevenson take. The Shakur fight would be brilliant to see how he'd deal with him. Yeah, I was thinking that as Justin was talking, actually, because you just don't know where the punch is coming from different angles. You'd imagine someone with Shakur's skill set would be able to figure him out, I think. Shakur's style is based on timing. Navarrete don't have a predictable punch cadence. Yeah, I agree that I think Navarrete will cause him trouble because of his unorthodox nature and the fact the punches are coming from different angles. But Shakura's really matured into such a nice fighter, hasn't he? I know he's a rhythm fighter and you have to push him out to that, but you have to imagine, Justin, that Shakur, with all his abilities, will be able to find those angles. Yeah. He's just so good, I think.
He's a hard guy. Everybody says that. Is that like the last 7 Shakur fights? Oh, if you just get him off his spot, and it's hard to do because he is so good at what he does. But I think Kakachi and Navarrete would be a good fight. I think that would be a pretty good fight for as long as it lasted. I don't think that would go 12 because Kakachi's kind of his style. I don't think he would sit back. That'd be a good Dickens. I think Dickens would give a better fight than Nunez did. I think he would do a little bit differently. I think that'd be a better fight. But I think Navarrete beats Kakachi. He beats Dickens. I would lean towards he'd beat Foster, but that's a 50-50.
Mm-hmm. It is. So so Navarrete is the number 1 in the division. I've got the list here, obviously, because he's got 2 belts. Foster's number 2. He beat Stephen Fulton in his last fight. Kakachi's number 3, even though he doesn't have a belt. We're expecting him to have one soon. Number 4 on BoxRec is a guy called Moussa Gholam, who is from a Moroccan based in Spain, who hasn't lost in the last 4 years. I'm not really sure who he's fought, but maybe dismiss him at the moment. Andres Cortez is quite high. Raymond Ford was sitting at ringside. He had a couple of good wins last night. Yeah, a couple of fights in the car park, maybe. No, a couple of good wins last year. Looked like there was a couple of scraps in the crowd, actually, Justin. Did you see that? During the main events, they were all looking over and all.
Yeah, because there's Nunez and Navarrete might both be from Mexico, but just like every country in the world, everybody has their own regions. So you got northern New Mexico, southern Mexico. They all kind of have their own culture and a little bit different, so they don't like each other. And so, yeah, that was the point. I think they said Navarrete had more fans than Nunez, but Nunez had a pretty good chunk that showed up for him, and I think that's what the fights were. There's this different rivalries going on. You remember how Barrera and Morales hated each other's guts because they were both from different areas of Mexico and stuff. Every country's the same. Where you're from, people always break it down to what region. Like over here, the South versus the North, East, West, and that's how that works. They were both a little bit different area. If you're in Mexico City or near Mexico City, they consider you a little bit different than people that live in northern Mexico. So that's why they went off.
One of the quality ones was that I think it was Albuquerque. I think whenever Miguel Roman, and Antonio Escalante fought, because they had disorder on the border, they called it, and that was a quality fight because they'd had beef as kids or something. They'd both grown up in the sort of Mexico border town, and whenever they were youngsters, Roman was a bit older, and he'd grabbed Escalante's eggs at the market and thrown them on the floor, and they'd had a bit of a brawl. And then 20 years later, they met on ESPN Friday Night Fights. That was a class story. It was a good fight too. Escalante got his revenge.
You remember Johnny Tapia from New Mexico when he fought the God, what was that guy he fought that was such a big rivalry? What was that?
Romero?
It might have been, yeah. They remember that was a big deal because Tapia was like and he considered the other guy the rich kid, and like that was the whole feud with that. And there's, you always got to have cultural. They always have to make it into something, but usually it matters to a lot of people. Though it might not matter to us, but it matters to a lot of people where you're born and how you're raised compared to how. No matter if you're from the same country or not. And you're right, the eggs was funny. Yeah, don't throw his eggs down and all that stupid shit. But it makes the fights interesting if they don't like each other.
Yeah.
Legitimately don't like each other.
Yeah.
Not the fake shit we see nowadays where they try to make up beef. Back in those days, it was actually really like Morales Barrera was actually real beef. They did not like each other at all.
No.
That was real. Like you were from here. Morales was considered like which one was it? Morales or who was here the rich boy? Was it Morales or Barrera?
Barrera was the rich
Barrera,
boy,
yeah,
wasn't
because he was from Mexico, a nice neighborhood in Mexico City, because he considered the silver spoon.
Yeah, he was
And
he trained to be a lawyer or something.
Yeah, and Morales was the street kid, and they didn't like each
Yeah.
other. That was legit. They actually hated each other. So that's what makes great trilogies too. This wasn't like that though. The fans didn't like each other. But obviously Nunez loved Navarrete. He's probably got him to sign his gloves after the fight, how much he respected him. He probably have his poster on the wall because he just kept talking about it. You got to let that go. You can't. All he talked about was how much he loved Navarrete. That's not a good sign. You can't just keep going on about how much you love a guy and that you're his biggest fan and you watched every fight he's ever been in and you
touching gloves. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just on the Tapia thing, I might have to go back and revisit that. Johnny Tapia's one career of all my years in boxing I've never really followed. I'm trying to think if it was Romero, maybe Carbiel, or
I think it was Romero. They were both from New Mexico. They were both from New Mexico.
It's one career I've never followed, man. I've seen a couple of Tapia fights. I've never really.
You got to go back, read the book, read the Johnny Tapia book, and go back and watch. See, I lived near Albuquerque for a while, and I mean they love Johnny Tapia. He was the man, and he lived his life exactly the way you saw him in the ring. That's how he lived. That he was. Yeah, if anybody hasn't went back, read the book. It's called, I think it's like My Crazy Life or something. The book's called, and watch some of his fights. Johnny Tapia was a really underrated when he took it seriously, because he didn't take his life seriously at all, like 85% of the time. But when he did, Johnny Tapia was great. Remember, I think you've mentioned this before, what some of these fighters would be like during the social media eras. Johnny Tapia would be insane if he was if he was fighting during this era. Insane the stuff that would be out on social media about him, and this if he was fighting right now, it would be ridiculous the stuff that would be running around about Tapia.
Those boys were built differently. Just a few quick ones in the chat before we bring Des in. Will Boheenan says Navarrete clearly benefited from a different type of PED, the performance enhancing dietitian. Yeah, we had some a spotty back watch last night. We'll talk about that later on in one of the other shows. SO Boxing, that's Seconds Out Boxing there, slumming it here with the scumbags on this Sunday evening. And the aircraft carrier says Nunez met his idol. It was extra special because he's seen it up close. Des has joined the call. Don't forget to hit the like if you're in the chat, by the way. Hit the like. A bit of love for Des coming on this Sunday evening. We're just closing out the Navarrete versus Nunez chat, Des. We felt a little bit too much respect was shown before and clearly during the fight by Nunez, which led to his demise. What did you see last night?
Yeah, and by the way, how you doing, Steve? Lovely to have you on, mate. I was meant to get here at 8, but we had a bit of moving around, didn't we? And I made a plan, and I've had to sort of get back here. So I'm sorry for being late, but I'm here eventually.
All good. Yeah.
I wasn't going to watch it live. I was going to watch it this morning, but I went to bed very early yesterday, so I've had a long yesterday, and I woke up naturally about 10 to 4. So I caught the last 2 fights on the card, and they're both good fights to watch. When I saw Nunez walking into the ring, walking around the ring, I just didn't like his body language. I didn't like the look on his face. And Navarrete was the opposite. He looked confident. He was up on his toes. He was peacocking around. And maybe I'm a big fan of Navarrete, and I thought he was the favourite going in anyway. And he's got the cowboy hat on, and he's got a real identity. And I just think that worked for him yesterday. And I think it was Justin who touched on it, and one of the chaps in our chat said, never meet your idols, and maybe he was a bit starstruck. But there was a lot going on yesterday. Navarrete, he's a Navarrete fan. He said that, but I know loads of fighters. Oscar De La Hoya fought Chavez. I know loads of guys that have fought their heroes growing up, but they didn't respond like that. I think Nunez might have done the weight wrong. I think he got his tactics wrong. I think he found himself in the wrong type of rhythm. And I think as much as we saw the worst of Nunez yesterday, we saw the best of Navarrete, and we saw probably 3 or 4 different types of facets to Navarrete's game. We saw that he could be a really good judger of distance, letting his hands go on the front foot. So he was very proactive. But he also knew after round 5 or 6, when Nunez pressed him, Navarrete could keep being a good judger of distance and still be proactive on the back foot. We saw Nunez do things very un-Mexican. Like, he was doing things in straight lines. He looked very sorry for himself. And Navarrete was a heavy-handed kid. He didn't have to put nothing into his shots because Nunez was so available. He had no head movement. And I remember going back, 30 odd years ago, speaking to guys in boxing, and they always thought Ricky Hatton would get caught out with Mexicans because them shots Ricky used to throw, Mexicans just knew how to avoid them. They knew how to look after themselves. And I've always believed that. And every time I look at a Mexican fighter, particularly, down in them weights underneath like welter, they know how to look after themselves in the pocket. But Nunez didn't last night. He was very un-Mexican-like. But again, as I say, we saw the worst of Nunez, but we saw the very best of Navarrete. I thought it was a really good performance, and it was one of them ones where we all thought it was going to be a 50-50 going in, but it was anything but that. And Navarrete showed his class, and he showed why he's probably going to end up being a Hall of Fame fighter. And you can see why he's respected and so highly regarded in the trade. So it was a really good performance, Navarrete, and I enjoyed it. It was a good fight to watch.
It was indeed. All 3 of us enjoyed it then. Last night, Eddie Hearn seemed to enjoy it as well. Big smile on his face. He's obviously looking forward to some kind of unifications in the future for, well, I suppose he doesn't really promote Navarrete. Top rank, Brad Jacobs, Brad Goodman, one of the Brads. Brad Goodman, I think it was. Or Carl Moretti. Somebody of top rank was hanging around in the ring at the end. The guy who reminds me of Lou DiBella, but it's not Lou DiBella.
He looks like Lou DiBella with about a stone of weight on him, doesn't he? Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think he gets the Foster fight, Steve?
I'm not sure what's going on with Foster at the moment, but promotionally, you'd imagine they would try and make that. I think that would make sense and kind of leave the Dickenses, the Kakachis to fiddle about between themselves at the moment. I could see them, Des, maybe trying to sneak Ray forward in somewhere. They're interviewing between fights. Eddie seems fond of him. I can see him being, shoehorned in somewhere.
I looked at the guys down at 130, and I think Foster or Ford, they're the 2 guys that would make a lot of good sense. They're the 2 guys you'd go for.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Maybe they want to try and get Ford some kind of title or something. I don't know how they would make that, but the time's now for Navarrete and guys like Foster. They're in their early 30s, I believe so anyway. Now's the time to make those unifications, I think.
What's Kakachi up to, Steve? When was he last out, and what's his next one? Has he got anything lined up?
He has indeed. He's fighting on March the 14th, so a couple of weeks' time in Dublin against Jazza Dickens for the WBA title.
That's the one. So would that be an interesting fight with Kakachi's style, Navarrete's style, one end of the ocean against the other? Would that catch fire, do you think, if Navarrete fought Kakachi?
I think it definitely would. Yeah. Justin was saying that earlier because of their styles, their physical strength, their long arms, long reach and punching ability. It'd be nice to see Kakachi get that American, I think with the Irish-American thing going on as well, getting that fight out in the States. Yeah, I think so. It just feels to me, though, Des, whether they're looking to keep him sort of UK, Irish side, I don't know. Because he's supposed to fight Ray Ford last year and the fight fell through in Saudi. And I just don't know, man. He's never never stepped out of that sort of British market, hasn't he? Fighting your Cordinas, your Woods, your Warringtons, your Jazza Dickinses. He seems like a guy they like to keep at home.
Well, now you've said that. Now we've unpacked it. So I was looking at the super featherweights, and the two standouts were Foster and who's our kid again? We just spoke about the one that Nick Ball beat, Raymond Ford.
Ray Ford, yeah.
So we've got Ford and Foster, but now we've unpacked it a little bit. I think Kakachi's in that group as well. I think if he can beat Jazza, I'm not saying he does, but if he beats Jazza, he'll have a world title. And I think you're right with the Irish connection going out to America, and that might be the breakout for him, Steve. Like you said, he's been very UK based up till now, and he's been one of our sort of standout domestic fighters over the last few years. But I think if he can beat Jazz, I'm not saying he does, that might be the step he takes to maybe get a Navarrete one. That'd be a good fight. You're right. So looking at it now, I think I'd put Kakachi in with that group as well now.
Yeah, unless Dickens wins and signs for Zuffa and throws everything off.
Yeah,
but I think everybody is. Well, we get into that fight sometime, but Dickens is a live dog in that Kakachi fight, and I would not be surprised if he won. Talk about a man who is better, who has really put together a career that nobody saw coming overall. So I mean, you wouldn't be stunned if Dickens beat Kakachi, but I would lean Kakachi in that fight.
No, I agree. I would lean Kakachi as well, especially with sort of home advantage. But definitely Dickens is a live dog in that fight. I mean, he went out, didn't he, to Russia or wherever he ended up to beat Batagassiev. That's how he ended up with his title in the first place. He wasn't expected to win that fight.
Beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, he did indeed.
It'd be a good fight. I think you're right. For some reason, it seems like Ray Ford might be the next guy, because I think, Steve, you just said it, once they start interviewing you in between rounds and they keep showing you on camera, that means something is working in the background. It might not necessarily mean you're going to get it, but he's heavily being discussed to get this fight if they just keep showing you. Nobody watching on TV wants to see Ray Ford interview. They want to keep seeing pictures of Ray Ford. They're leaning you towards something. So I would not be surprised if that's not the next fight.
Yeah,
it's really easy. It's really easy to make. It's right there.
Yeah, just think Ray Ford just needs something to bring to the table. SO Boxing, Second Out Boxing says Lee Wood has been keen on the Navarrete fight for years. Lee Wood, of course, was stopped by Kakachi last time. Kakachi's 37 now. I know he's kept himself in good shape. I know he didn't live the life early in his career, especially when he was an amateur. But after a few fits and starts, he managed to show his ability and shine through. Got signed by Frank Warren, but he's got there in the end. And there was a lot of talk of after he beat Cordino, I think it was out in Saudi, that he was going to fight Oshaki Foster in Belfast. They're going to try and get the WBC champion over, but they weren't able to make that happen. But the time's now for Kakachi, I think, Des.
Yeah, and although the gentleman in the chat is right about Kakachi's age, his windows come at this age. It's not like he's had a 10-year hard career. This is his window. So I agree, age can be a factor, but he's not had a hard 10 years to get there. He's come good, and this is his window. So if he's ever going to do it, I think now's the time to do it.
Yeah, he's not a Lee Wood 37.
No.
But how disappointing would that be if Lee Wood got the fight? I mean, no offense to Lee Wood, but that would be disappointing if he got the Navarrete fight, because it would just be a murder.
I wouldn't like to see. I wouldn't like to see Lee Wood against Navarrete. That wouldn't be. I said this a couple of years ago when Lee Wood was a little bit in a better condition. I've never liked the idea of Lee Wood going in. His hands are down, his chin's up, and it's not a good environment. For
Emanuel Stewart said about always same thing. Emanuel Stewart said about Klitschko fighting Chisora. He's just all wrong for us. He's just all wrong for us. That would be a complete disaster. But I just think it's going to be forward.
You're not keen on this then, Justin? Lee Wood's got a fire inside him. If the people want it, the people, he's talking about you here. Lee Wood, honest on Josh Warrington trilogy. No views, apparently.
What sort of money would he get for that, do you think?
I don't know. You're a sicko.
I have no idea.
You have to be you're a friend of the family if you want that. I don't know other reason why you would want that. That makes even I think Des just said money wise. I don't even think the third time around.
I couldn't even
nobody's
guess at the
paying for
money.
that.
It's all got
No.
that skewed, hasn't it? Now with Saudi and all, I wouldn't even know what would
You
they
wouldn't be
even pay
you
for
wouldn't be
that.
stunned though if they got $2 million apiece. You wouldn't even be stunned if they got millions for that
I would
trilogy.
be stunned if they got 2 million apiece.
See, in the old days, Lee would have get about 400 grand for that.
Yeah.
And you sort of do I need go on then. But you're quite right, Steve. It's so bonkers now. There could be sort of like sort of 1.5, 2 million quid being thrown about, and then for that sort of money, if you're an active fighter on the back of a win, on the back of selling loads of tickets at his last show, and the people around him are go, do you know what? Let's have one last roll of the dice, and then trainers say things like this. If I think it's a bit too deep in there, we'll get you out. And you start thinking, well, yeah, go on. I've got 4 rounds in me. I'll give him the best 4 rounds of my life and see where I am. And we've seen that before as well. Fighters take that one extra fight. They probably ain't got no chance of winning, but the money's so good. Yeah. And I'm looking at Lee Wood's picture there, that me having the fire inside me type thing. And you think, yeah, I could imagine it's very hard, particularly if you're Lee Wood. I mean, he ain't AJ or Tyson Fury or, if you're Lee Wood, to walk away leaving that type of money on the table, if the money is that good.
I don't think that's. I don't truly believe that'll happen at all. I think Lee Wood is. God, I mean, but they're talking about it. That's the bad thing. I didn't even know Box Nation still was interviewing people.
Yeah, apparently so. And they do the odd show. They do the odd small hall show here and there. They've obviously just asked him the question, haven't they, to sort of get the title? And he's obviously said, well, yeah, because you don't want to say, oh, no, Warrington's shot. I've beat him twice already. And then they match him, make the fight a year down the line. And they're like, look what you said, and all that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Anyway, we'll park that to one side. Just quickly on the undercard before we go on to this Usyk chat. I was going to ask you, actually, Justin, about Emiliano Vargas. He's only 21. He's 17-0 with 14 knockouts. I thought he was the other Vargas brother who was fighting Callum Walsh the other time. I get them all mixed up. Apparently, there's about 3 of them. Although they're beefing. There was a video of them fighting in a lobby, and so I don't know whether it's true. But someone said
there's like 3 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some kind of there was some family beef. No, I can't verify the comments below. It said it was something to do with a woman, and one of them was chasing the other one, trying to punch him. But they're 2 Vargas sons, so if the chat knows anything about that, let us know. But apparently they're all fighters, and they can all fight, whether it's in the ring or out the ring. But Emiliano, probably the youngest one, I think, he's always looked like his dad, I felt facially. But one thing stood out to me last night. His dad he always struggled with the weight, big time. We know that he ballooned at the end against Mayorga. He just let himself go. He kept eating tacos and goodness knows what else. But even when he was a welterweight, he was never physically defined. And sometimes it come to bite him at the end of the highest profile fights when he lost his way and his engine wasn't quite what it should have been. This is his dad I'm talking about, obviously. But early on in his career, it didn't necessarily affect him that much. But one thing I noticed last night about Emiliano, Justin, was that he didn't just resemble his dad facially. He resembled him very much in physique, I thought, in those early fights, Quartet fights.
Yep.
There wasn't much refinement or definition around the belly. I'm not saying he was in bad shape by any means, but there wasn't that sort of washing board chest, and he looked a little bit like he was maybe one weight too high than he needed to be. And I thought to myself, that's interesting, especially when this guy Quintana, who pretty much got the shit beat out of him for the first few rounds, landed a couple of body shots on Emiliano, and he winced. I noticed. I reckon that could be an avenue for future fighters to exploit, because he looked like his dad in stature, physique, and I wonder about I don't know about the training, the gas tank, or the body kind of worried me a little bit.
Well, we can go ahead and say after watching him a couple of times, he's not his dad. He doesn't have the same talent. I think Vargas last night, he made the cardinal sin of he hasn't really talked his son up as much as you would think, like, oh, my son's the best ever. But he's starting it now, saying that my son's going to be 10 times better than me because he lives a clean life, and he's not going to be you. We can go ahead and put that to one side. He's not going to have the career his dad had. It's just not going to happen. I think Vargas has a ceiling. I don't know if he'll be a world champion. I'm 50-50 if he'll win a world championship. He's decent. He's got some ability, but last night he's still learning. So you can't sit there and say, oh, he looked like crap, or even though he won the fight, he didn't look great at times. But Quintana he's also better than what his record is. He's one of these guys that he's a tough guy. I'm 50-50 on Vargas. I don't see him having half the career his dad had, which is hard to do because Fernando Vargas is probably one of my top 5 or 10 favorite fighters of all time, because when he was on it,
Same. Yeah.
when he was on it, he was on it. When he had his little curl in the front and shit.
Yeah, that's
cool.
exactly what yeah.
That's all I picture when I think about. He had a little curl going. He was different. He talked shit. He just said it in the interview, I think a couple of days ago. He never lived the life. He said even when he first started, he never really did. That's why his prime, he was done at like 27, because he just didn't care about living the life.
And he started very early as well. When he was
Yes.
beating the guys like Winky Wright.
Yeah.
He was like, what, 19, 20, something ridiculous like that?
That's the point. We're not going to see fighters like that. He was fighting Corte, right, when he was like 20 years old.
Yeah. Raul Marquez.
Yeah, that's not going to happen anymore, because that was the mindset, the Mexican mindset of you start when you're 16 as a pro and you just get after it. But like I said, I loved his dad. I hope for his son. I think this is the most talented of the 3 sons that fight. Emiliano, the only thing about Emiliano, I think, that he's going to get into his dad's way of thinking is he's already at the halftime show of the Super Bowl. He's already getting this big press, and he's done nothing yet. That was a bit. You might not know who he is. People know it. But when you're at the halftime show of a Bad Bunny halftime show and you're one of his guests, you're getting limelight that you might not want this early on when you haven't done anything in your career. He's got the target on his back now. I think Quintana said it. Hey, this guy's getting talked up as if he's the best thing, and I just don't see it. I don't think he'll win a world title. I can say that now. I'm 50-50. He's just, but I get what you're saying about the body. He does have his dad, because like you said, Fernando was never cut. He was never chiseled, never had like a 6-pack, really. That wasn't his thing, but we'll see. I don't think they're going to throw him in the deep end, his neck. I don't think they're going to push him.
He's only young, isn't he? Like,
yeah, I would not. Yeah. I would not push him. He needs a couple of more years, because he is a loss waiting to happen if you step. Like last night, Quintana landed some big shots. He was in that fight. He even stunned him a little bit. He's not ready for anything much bigger than that right now, or they're going to get a loss.
When he said he wants to fight a former world champion next in the end, and I would have said someone like Regis Prograis, but obviously he's signed to fight Conor Benn. What about a Kambosos? Do you think how do you think he'd get on someone like that?
He would. Kambosos would give him a fight, but he should beat Kambosos. I've always said, I don't care what people think. He was such a flash in the pan, overrated, overhyped. He got one night. He hit the lottery ticket. I guess you can. Kambosos would take the fight. I don't think he would. Kambosos would take any fight you offered him. And then we'll start seeing him talk shit on Twitter again to all the Vargas fans. So that would be fun to listen to, because Kambosos would be going after everybody, saying crazy shit. But that makes sense. I think Prograis would have been the guy, but Ben already jumped ahead and took that easy. I wouldn't say easy, but at this point in his career, Prograis is, not easy work, but he's not far off from easy work. Prograis doesn't have any world level left in him at all at this point.
Jose Ramirez's name getting thrown in by the chat.
Yeah, that's another guy that can't really pull the trigger anymore. So that would be a decent scrap. They'll find somebody. If they're already going down that route, there's a ton of former world champions that are well past it that he can go against. Bring back the Ghost. They can fight the Ghost again. Bring him down, or bring him back. There's guys out there.
Des, what did you see the undercard? Did you see anything of Vargas or any of the other boys?
Yeah, I like the Vargas fight, and there was a lot of talk about the stoppage, and I'll come to that, my opinion on that in a minute. But I just think, to answer the question, jump in what you and Justin were talking about there. He's 21. He's got a very famous, very well-respected dad. So whoever he fights, he's going to find another 15-20%. It's going to be their moment to upset the son of a legend. He's 21 years old. He's boxing with a lot of regularity. He's out 4 times a year. They'll probably keep that going for another 2 years. So if they can get him through 2026 with another 3 or 4 fights, if they can get him through 2027, and then maybe get him round to that 21, 22 bout mark. Then maybe look at matching him a little bit tougher and progressing him into that sort of top 10, top 6 or 7 bracket. You see, you know what I'm saying, Steve? He's 21 years old. He's only, was he at 16, 17 now?
Yeah.
16,
17.
17 bouts. Yeah, he's still learning, and he hasn't got to rush this. He's not in any rush, and he's not.
That's true, but what about the fact that given his dad's trajectory, and he's also the way he planned his own career, and he's also guiding Emiliano's career, plus the fact Emiliano's asking for a former world champion in his next fight, do you think they're consciously jumping through those stages themselves? They've created the conversation me and Justin were having almost by their aggressive matchmaking.
Yeah, you're quite right, but I think the things a fighter says in a post-fight interview when they're in the ring with their shirt off is one thing, but what the clever people around them will say when they're in offices, in gyms, is we've got something here. But Justin's right, you know, he's not like a standout at 21 like his father was, and nor should he be. Not many people are. He probably won't get his strength till he's about 24 years old. You know, he's only a baby. So I think if they rush him, his dad can talk on the experience of going probably a bit too soon in his own career and being one of them sort of candles that burnt out very quickly. But I think if they've got a little bit a sense about him, I think they'll keep him active in 2026. They'll keep him on good cards. They'll keep his name out there, and he can do his bit in the ring. And I think maybe 2027, the back end of 2027, we might see him step up. And I think that would be right. Around the sort of 22, 23 bout mark. And even then, he's only a baby. He'll only be 21, 22, 23 then. So he's very young. He's had a lot of success so far in his career. And he's doing everything right. His trajectory is going in the right direction. But I think with this one, you've got to just sort of take your time with it. But it's only natural because of who his father is and because of the way he's fighting. And it's only natural for us to sort of say, when's he going to step up? But I just can't see it for another 12 to 18 months just yet. And with stoppage, there was a lot of people thinking that the referee should have let Quintana hear the final bell. And I do understand that. But sometimes referees, they see things in rounds. They're very close to it. They see eyes roll. They see bodies sag. They see shoulders drop, only for a split second. It's very momentarily. And in their mind, they're thinking, if he don't show me something, I'm going to have to pull him. And I just think I get the impression that they had the doctor up previously. The referee was talking to the corner, and the corner was saying, no, he's fine. And the referee weren't comfortable with that. And I've always been a believer in if the referee has seen enough, it's his job to call it. And that kid was never going to win that fight. He was marked up badly. He'd taken a lot of shots. Although he did have moments in the fight, but by the time he was pulled out, I think it was a right call. And I think there was the brilliant Julio Cesar Chavez. He wanted to see him a bit pulled out. So if the Mexicans are saying, pull this kid out, that's the writing's on the wall.
Well, Des, you said it before, like you just said, there are a lot of referees, if you go back and listen to their interviews, they're like, you guys don't hear what, like, the stuff he might be groaning after shots, and like the stuff he's like, you don't even hear that stuff that I hear. It's just like he takes a shot, he might just make wince and different little things, and they just hear stuff that we don't hear. Also, it's like the little things.
I agree.
And I have no problem with that. Because Quintana, you think about it, but the last 2 rounds, he wasn't really throwing a ton back.
He weren't throwing nothing back. And the tone of the fight dropped. Yeah, absolutely. And the tone of the fight was, you can't win this. You're not going to win this. All you're going to do is take more punishment. And I'm looking in fights like that, particularly in them championship round moments. I'm looking at the referee, and he wanted a doctor to come up, and the doctor said, "Go on then." And that eye was not only closed, it was puffed, but it was closed, and then it split, and it went all over his face. And there's the referee's sitting there thinking, there's nothing to be gained sending this kid out for another 3 minutes. So in my opinion, he made the right call.
And that's what they get paid for. That's the whole point of them being in there. Because, of course, the corners we've seen over the years, they'll throw their guy out there if he doesn't have any eyes. I mean, they don't.
We've seen that before, yeah.
Some of these corners don't care, and I mean, honestly, they say
that.
they do, but so yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Chavez must have got compassionate in his old age because I didn't notice the
Yeah.
Quintana one, but I knew during the main event he was shouting for it to be called. It's called off, wasn't he? He ain't a savage no more.
He's softened up in his old age.
Could you imagine if they stopped Chavez?
Exactly.
He would have lost it. He would have been the Zab Judah and tried to punch the referee moment. It would have been bad. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's their job. And we bitch about it if it's too early, but we also bitch when it's too late. And refereeing's a hard job to find that middle ground of you can't make everybody happy. You just have to do what you feel is right.
Yeah. I used to say that to Andy, to be fair, because the thing that I always used to stick with me was you're looking at guys having to make decisions in split seconds, man. I know we can go back and watch it afterwards, but sometimes they're making the decision in 2 or 3, 4 seconds, and it might not always be the right one, but it's hard under that pressure to come up with those sort of situations, I think. But
Steve,
yes.
It can only be, sometimes it could just be a look in a fighter's eye. Sometimes you know yourself, don't you, mate? It's like, I've just seen something here that I don't like, and that's enough. You think, I'm just waiting for one more excuse now, and then they can ship a right hand and go, no, that's your lot. And everyone's stunned and think it was a premature call, but the referee sees it or the trainer sees it in that minute break. They just think there's something here I don't like. Who was Costa-Zoo's trainer, Steve? Do you remember his name?
Johnny. Oh God.
It weren't Lewis or Owens or whatever, but you can see his face, can't you, Johnny? Yeah.
Yeah.
He pulled Costa out at the end of the 11th, and him and Costa never spoke again. But he said, but Costa's wife has called me and thanked me. He said, because I saw something there, and I thought my man shouldn't go out for the last round. And that's what trainers and moving it to one side, referees are there to do.
That's what Wilder's trainer did. And he's never talked to him since.
Right. Mark Breland, yeah.
And he's tried to say that he's like cheated him. And hey, he should have pulled you out of that fight. That's what you'll be thanking him 10 or 15 years from now.
Yeah.
He did what he had to do.
Yeah, it was Johnny Lewis. Sorry, I thought it was Johnny Lewis. You were right, Des, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great story. Yeah. He says Costa's never spoken to me since. And I get that as well from the fighter's perspective. But he said, I just saw something in him. I didn't want to send him out. He said, but his wife has thanked me and it's called me. I speak to his wife and she thanked me for what I did that night. Because trainers, and I say trainers and referees, they're so close to it. They see things that we just don't see. The only time I always talk about premature stoppages is every now and then you might get one of them where, do you remember Tony Bellew and Orville McKenzie? Do you remember that pony stoppage? When Orville was on his feet, doing a Muhammad Ali look, and it looked like Muhammad Ali and got stopped on his feet. And
that's right.
I still struggle a little bit with the Parker and Wardley stoppage because the tone of that fight was hit for hit, 1 for 1. And but I did say on our pod, the referee must have seen something he didn't like in the previous round or that round. He must have seen something in Parker's body language and thought, that's enough for me to call this. And you do have to respect referees for making tough decisions like that.
Well said. Respect to the referees. Justin, just to close out the undercard here, Matty called the Abel Ramos win fair play during the week. He was talking about that him managing to old man Tamir Smalls, which he did. Smalls just ran out of gas after a good start, actually. And the only other fight I watched on that card was Cardenas, Jordan Martinez. I mostly got swept up in the sort of commentary in the crowd, but kind of felt like Martinez did enough to get the win there, Justin. I don't know what you thought about those two.
I think Martinez, I had no problem with that. Either way that one went. And Ramos, I think we all said that. Smalls probably took the first 4 or 5 rounds, but he had to really work to win those 5 rounds. They weren't easy. And Ramos just knows how to beat guys like this. Simple as that. He knows he stayed the course. He kept doing what he always does. And he just started chopping. If that had been a 12-round fight, Smalls wouldn't have made it. He would not have made 12 because he was screwed about the final 2 rounds. Ramos just could not get that last little shot to knock him over. But that was good for Ramos. He doesn't get those close decisions. He finally got one. But I wouldn't say you can use the word dominate, but he took over that fight. So he deserved to get that win. He's the one that brought the fight. He was hurting the other guy. He was doing what he was on the front foot, and he deserved to get that win.
Yep, fair enough. I had 6'4" Ramos as the aircraft carrier. Yimmy Yappy, talking about Earl. Graham Earl. Yeah, I put that up on the LinkedIn the other day, actually. Graham Earl, when he threw the tail out. Steve Gray did that years later as well, when Lewis Ritson was fighting against Jeremiah Ponce, I think it was. Doesn't happen very often. But anyway, we shall move on. Just to remind everybody at home, you're listening to the 652nd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nutters podcast. Des is on the call, so is Justin alongside me. Steve, don't forget to hit the like at home. If you're listening during the week, leave us a comment in the YouTube. Some people do. Some good analytical comments. Bit of hate as well. Don't mind that. Leave a dislike if you want. Just do something with your life. Come on now. Anyway, let's move on. Before we go to the Usyk chat, Des, I take it you caught the fight over in Derby, the Queensby card. The undercard wasn't much carb. Owen Cooper in the main event, losing to Constantine Ursu. Bit of a fan favourite, Ursu, in the chat. I know there's a couple of guys from the sort of southwest of England who've been following his career. He got a good win. I thought Cooper was the more tried and tested product at this level. I know he'd ended up getting stopped by Echo Esserman, but he'd given Echo a hell of a scare beforehand, and he'd shown his mettle, and he'd shown that he was able to do a 12-round distance. But Ursu just got on the jab, used his game plan really well, and he was very consistent and very fit and very strong, I thought. And in the end, Cooper just didn't really have any answers.
Steve, I'm going to shock you here, and I feel guilty for saying this because you gave me such a good build-up there. I was out all day, home at 8:30, bed at 9, up at 10 to 4 to watch Navarrete. So I never saw that one. I never saw it.
You missed the fight of the year.
No problem. Well, no. You didn't miss too much, Des, to be honest. Don't worry about it. That's okay. That's not a problem. I know Justin watched it, so we'll move to him on this one before going to our Usyk chat. 118, 110 to Ursu. A lot of people were saying 10 rounds to 2. He kept Cooper at bay with the southpaw jab, as I mentioned. Some people were comparing him to Lucien Butte. I thought that was accurate. A lot of mention of the spots on his back as well. Can't really say too much about that. Just have to put it out there. That's what people were saying. A lot of feinting. A lot of good work. He's built himself up on the domestic scene, and he's got a lot of good wins, actually. And he picked Cooper off really well, and he must punch pretty hard because Cooper was afraid to come in, apart from a few rounds in the middle of the fight where he kind of got into a bit of a rhythm. Cooper was just kept on the end of the jab, and he was a worthy loser, and he accepted it at the end.
Yeah, Ursu looked pretty smooth. He was popping Cooper's head most of the fight. I don't know how much power Ursu has because he landed some really good shots, and you got to give Cooper credit because he kept in there the whole time.
He's tough, isn't he?
Yeah, he was busted. He got busted up, but he kept coming. But I like Cooper. I like guys like that. He's an honest dude. He's going to show up. Ursu, I think I got to give Matt credit because I know he's been on Ursu for a long time, even when he was fighting like these random cards. So I don't know how far Ursu goes, but he's going to be tough to fight because he does the basics pretty well. He's got a good jab. He moves pretty well. I wouldn't say he's above average. He's a decent fighter, but yeah, Cooper, I give Cooper the credit. He hung in there when he probably didn't have to because he doesn't have the power to really turn that around. And he went the whole fight. It was a decent fight. It was a good non-pay-per-view British fight. The whole card was nothing great, but it wasn't a bad card from beginning to end. It was decent fights. It wasn't the best, but hell, you don't have to have every fight doesn't have to be the best. As long as it's decent, I'm happy with it. And those were all pretty good fights.
Yeah, on the undercard, for anybody who didn't catch it, Ben Fail give Mason Cartwright a beating. Cartwright's nose pretty much opens.
He beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, he did really, didn't he?
Yeah, he beat the shit out of him for a while. That was a good stoppage because Cartwright wasn't turning that fight around, and he wasn't going to go down either. So Cartwright was going to have to put him down, and that's why the referee jumped in because Cartwright was going to stand right there and just keep taking shots to the face when he didn't really have to. That's another one where his corner might have been like, maybe we should have jumped in a little bit on this one. We're not going to turn this fight around. So I think his corner should have jumped in and saved him a little bit earlier than the referee having to do it.
Talking of corners as well, I don't know if you saw any of the preliminaries, Justin. I wouldn't say against you if you didn't. But early on, there's a young kid, I think he's about 19, Tony Curtis Jr. was boxing. Not so much his performance. I don't really think he's that good, but he's got Roy Jones in the corner. Roy was there having the photos taken on a preliminary card in Derby. Bit of a strange.
Roy will go anywhere. Roy will go anywhere. He does not care.
He was in Slava Spoma's corner against Xander Zayas. What's going on with Roy?
I don't know.
What's the crap there?
I don't think Roy's a good trainer. I'll go ahead and say it now. He does. And it's funny because, like you said, he'll come up out of nowhere with guys you're like, who the hell's Roy training? Who? Like, I don't even know how he meets these people. How he gets involved with this. Roy is just one of these guys. If he's not fighting, he has to be involved. And I don't think he cares, obviously, what level he's involved at. Small hall. He'll show up anywhere. He definitely would train somebody at the car park. He would be in the canteen. I don't think Roy would care anything. I think he just loves boxing so much that but yeah, I didn't see the Tony Curtis shooter, but I knew that Roy was training people there because, like you said, they got him in the ring and he was waving to the crowd. I think Roy just loves the spotlight. Doesn't matter how small or big it is. He just wants to be around doing something. But yeah, Roy, you would have to say, is this his first real prospect that he's trained, like really tried to bring up? Because the guys only, like the younger guys, I don't know what's going to happen with that. But Roy, man, he will go anywhere. Anywhere. As long as he doesn't fight. As long as he doesn't fight anymore, I don't care what he does.
Well, that's the thing. I was about to say that as well. The boys are saying it in the chat too. Love Roy. He's an all-time top 10, but a terrible coach. And then he's more of a mentor, says the aircraft carrier. I agree with that. Even though he isn't a good coach, Justin, you're right. People just want to go with him because it's Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah,
but
you get to hang out with Roy Jones Jr. People
exactly.
Like, hey,
attach yourself to him. But that's the thing, though, man.
Yeah.
He's tainting his brand for me, Roy, because not only did he go on about 12 years too long as a fighter, and there's that whole debate now about if he'd have retired before he beat John Ruiz, how he would be looked at if we didn't have these lasting images of him like boxing and flipping Latvia or getting knocked out by Enzo Macronelli, and Enzo looking like he just punched a kid in a wheelchair. He was so upset with himself, and how his career would be different. But no, Roy is like sort of cheapening his brand a little bit more by he's talking up these guys when they're clearly not that good. And I don't hate on him for that, but he's attaching himself to guys who clearly don't have a tenth of the ounce of ability as he did. And he's like, yeah, this guy Spoma, man, he was really impressed with him in sparring. And then we're watching him fighting. Or young Tony, I mean, he's trying to do the Roy Jones moves. I'm like, what are you doing, son, man?
Yeah, because what's Roy doing? All Roy knows how to train is to train like him. Well, these guys aren't him, so they're not going to be able to do what he does. No. So he had that
immense natural ability.
Yeah, that's it. And he's training these guys to be like him, but he's getting random dudes that are probably not even headlining a small hall show. And he, like you said, I don't know how they meet him. Roy must have obviously he's got some kind of British connection with some of this a promoter somewhere. And they're just saying, and they might be paying Roy extra money. It might be like, hey, Roy, do you want to train my guy as a publicity thing? Because that's the only thing I can figure is it's like
I think Dubai. I think Roy goes out to Dubai. Well, not at the moment, but Roy does stuff in Dubai, and Curtis, I think, found him there. So it wasn't like a British soil kind of meetup. I don't think so. But yeah, I don't rate Curtis really that much.
Tony Curtis Jr. That's the actor Tony Curtis, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what. Exactly.
Not related to the actor Tony and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Tony Curtis versus Dave Allen. All these famous names in the ring. Anyway,
before it's all said and done, we're going to see Roy train somebody, and they're going to be in a big fight, and they're going to lose. But Roy is going to maybe he's throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping it sticks somewhere. I think what Roy's doing also. He's like, if I train a 500 no names, I'm bound to catch one.
Well, he trained Eubank Jr., didn't he, as Chris Butler says in the chat?
And Eubank
didn't he Jean Pascal?
Yeah.
He trained Jean Pascal for a while, I think, didn't they?
And they look like shit because he trained them. Pascal.
Well, Pascal couldn't fight like Roy, man. He's top heavy, isn't he?
Pascal is a bruiser type fighter, not a sit back and on your back foot and dance and all that different stuff. And Roy but you're right. If Roy had retired after Ruiz, I would say he would be considered the best ever or top 3 best ever. Ruiz, if he had retired, how would you argue that he was the best ever? I mean, he would have to be in that conversation if he just left.
I know looking back now, 23 years later, that's a hard thing to sort of agree with, but I remember like watching it at the time and like that win over Ruiz. I know it was Ruiz, but yeah, Roy, man, he was class. Like even when he beat Tarver when he moved back down. Yeah, it was phenomenal. Sorry, Des, I've took us down a rabbit hole here. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Nah, it's a good rabbit hole. I remember watching that, and it's a shame if we look back here. I think it was only John Ruiz. John Ruiz was a legitimate heavyweight. He was a world champion, and Roy
Yes.
Jones doing what he did that night was like something we'd never seen. We was watching history being made. It was a brilliant, brilliant achievement. And him, if he'd have retired after the Ruiz fight, you're quite right. And if he'd have retired after the first Tarver fight, because going from heavyweight back to light heavyweight is a monumental achievement we've never seen before. So that would have been. I just think with Roy, it's a bit like when you get Chris Waddle playing in the third tier of English football, or you hear these stories of brilliant players like Paul Gascoigne or Paul Merson, and they just drop down because they just like playing. And I think guys like Roy, see, boxing is such a niche sport, and there's too many ex-fighters and not enough jobs. But someone like Roy should really. I thought he was a brilliant commentator. He looked great in a blazer and a tie, and he knows how to call a fight. But I think someone like Roy should have been brought in by the US amateur team, and he should have been heading their type of programs. And because I don't think you could ever get Roy to impart what he had on any pro fighter, because he was a true talent. It's like asking Matt Letitia to coach, 22 footballers. They're never ever going to do what you do on their very best day. Glenn Hoddle was the same. John Barnes, Chris Waddle. These guys will never make good managers. Sean Dyche will make a better manager because he's just pragmatic. He knows the limitations.
That's why Michael Jordan come out and said he's never going to coach. Like he said, what's the point? I'm never going to be able to push what I got. I can't. I'm never going to have the mindset. I'm always going to be like, they should be doing what I'm doing, and they're never going to be able to do that. So
and it's like all them super talented sports people. I mean, sports people are talented anyway, but you get them super talented ones that, that 10%. Like Ronnie O'Sullivan, he works incredibly hard. He does everything pragmatically, and then he crosses a line and does things that are just magical that no other player can do. Alex Higgins was the same. Jimmy White was the same. Nazim Hamed to a degree. I'm the only one in boxing doing stuff that no coach could coach me. This is so unique to me. And if I went with a coach, he'd try and coach it out of me. They can't do what I do. So Roy Jones is one of them, I can't impart this on you. No matter how many times I do the drills, no matter how many times I get you to do it in training, under the lights, you will not be able to do this because it's not natural. It's not organic. I'm trying to make you do it, but it doesn't. You need to be trained by someone that's a lot more pragmatic and can teach you the foundations and build from there. Roy just goes in at skyscraper level. His motor skills and his ceiling is so high. So I always would have thought that someone like Roy Jones should have been working with elite amateurs, getting them through tournaments, working on one or two motor skills that get you through a Pan Americans or an Olympics or into an Olympics or a qualifying tournament or a state title. I think that's where Roy would have been fantastic. But to unleash him on pro boxing, I just think you've got no chance at all. And to go back to the point, why are we seeing Roy everywhere? I just think he's probably a guy that just only knows boxing. This is what he's done since he was 10 years old. He's a lifer. What's he going to do? Get a job? What HBO are done with boxing. Where's he going to go? Sometimes you see him on DAZN. Sometimes you see him working for an American broadcaster on Showtime. But this guy loves being in boxing gyms. He loves being around boxers. It's just how it is.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about his role in boxing as well, especially the amateur thing, because to use old teaching parlance, he needs to be the guide on the side rather than the sage on the stage. He likes to be the guy next to someone who's teaching them the fundamentals, and he's imparting his knowledge, teaching them, like you said, just a couple of little tricks of the trade to get them through, rather than being the main man saying, what's going on? Why can't you flip and jump around this guy the way I did around Montel Griffin or around James Toney or Bernard Hopkins? Why can't you do the things? I remember Dave Boy McCauley years ago, I interviewed him and I said, why do you not go into coaching? He says, it's just too frustrating. The guys I was coaching just couldn't do the things that I was able to do, and it was just basically pissing me off so much,
But can you see let's bring it back to say British level. Can you see how someone like James DeGale, if I put him in a pro gym with a pro fighter, I don't think that gets off the ground. But if I put James DeGale in the iOS and got him to work with our elite amateurs, I think James would have so much to offer. He'd know how to navigate fighters through tournaments. They know how to get their diet right, the sort of runs they should be doing. I can almost imagine James DeGale saying, "No, I can get you to nick this one because I know the pattern myself. I know the formula. I've done it." And I think James would have a wonderful, a really valuable contribution in the amateurs. But I don't see that same value contribution in the pros. And,
No.
I think that's probably where guys like Roy Jones, them super talented fighters, but their money's not there. The people that are already in them jobs are protecting them jobs. And we've personally seen it years back when me and Steve see Richie Woodall over here get put into a position at GB, or at the time I think it was Sport England. He undermines everyone that's there, and it don't last 5 minutes. So it's a catch-22, I'm afraid. Guys like I always say this, when you watch Premier League football on a Sunday, we hear from Carragher, Neville, and Roy Keane. And you've got Matt Letizia, Chris Waddle, Glenn Hoddle, John Barnes, all sitting at home. And there's something about pragmatic sports people that do really well. And they have a second career after their career. And the super talented ones that could do things that coaches can't coach, they're almost sort of left out. There's no place for them to go.
No place for them to go. On a Sunday evening, they can come on with us if they want. Yeah, the guys in the chat having an interesting conversation. Yeah, some of the worst takes you hear come from some of the best fighters of all time. That's just the way it is. Motor Skills 66 in the chat there. Aircraft Carrier, Michael Thompson, Chris Butler. Who else? Justin Dull. He's in the chat. Nothing dull about Justin. He's on the call with us as well. Yumi Yappy's hanging around. Seconds Out was there too. Let's get on to the big talking point of the week. And then before we get on to Opataya Glanton and then out of here. So during the week, it was announced that Oleksandr Usyk was fighting Rico Verhoeven, apparently. I had heard the name, wasn't really familiar with this gentleman's body of work. May the 23rd in the Pyramids of Giza. I was there, 2007, for my honeymoon. It is nice, very hot. Hopefully they're going to have plenty of water on board. What are you thinking about this then, Justin? I thought at first Usyk might sign with Zuffa. They might stick him in against Andy Ruiz, but he's fighting a kickboxer. I mean, if it wasn't the kickboxer, what was realistic? What would you like to have seen? People have said Gabriel. People have said Wilder. People have said Wardley. People have said Itoma. Are you happy with this? Would you have rather seen one of those names? What's you thinking on this, Justin?
I'll be honest. I would rather see him fight Caballero or just retire. To me, Usyk has nothing left to prove. And fighting Itoma, that's nothing at this point because Itoma's not ready for that. Caballero would be a good fight, but that's not going to sell because people still underrate Caballero as if you read some of these articles and stuff, people still think Caballero is the nobody. So that wasn't going to move the needle. Wilder, who gives a shit? I mean, I'm a Wilder fan. I've seen him fight live 3 times. I love Wilder, but who gives a shit about Wilder? He's done. He's past done. This is just Usyk. I think Usyk is sort of like, I'm just going to take a shit ton of easy money and everybody else is doing it. Why can't I do it? I've seen the Verhoeven guy fight. He is like a legend in kickboxing. He is probably the best heavyweight kickboxer of all time. He's a beast. He is, he really is a beast when it comes to kickboxing. Now, boxing, no. He's going to give a good effort. He's a tough dude. I don't know how much this sells, but like I think Aircraft Carrier guy just said what I said. Everybody else is taking a money grab. Usyk's probably like, well, shit, if they're going to do it, I'm going to take an easy-ass money grab because there's nobody legitimately right now, there's nobody, I believe in Usyk's eyes, there's no challenge for me at heavyweight at this moment. I've already beat who I wanted to beat. I've done what I wanted to do. Usyk is not going to get up for Caballero. He's not going to get Itoma, like I just said, is not ready for this. Is not ready for Usyk at all. So why not take a money grab? We don't have to watch it, but it's weird. I mean, it's just, I don't blame him. I don't want to see it. But if I were Usyk, I would beat the shit out of Verhoeven and I would retire. There's no point of him. My fear with Usyk is you don't want to keep fighting and then have a guy take you when you're past it. So he needs to end right now. Don't taint your career. Don't lose to a Caballero at this point. Beat this Verhoeven and get out. I just don't want to. I don't want to see Usyk fight anymore. Honestly, he's done everything he can do. Usyk's not a young dude. I mean, he's not a young guy. He should be out. He's beat the best of the best at his era. He's done what he had to do. He has outshined these guys. He's looked brilliant. There's no point of him fighting anymore. But hey, I imagine he'll probably get $10-20 million to fight this guy, and that'll be the end of it. I just don't see the point in it. But hell, AJ did it. Fury's doing it. Everybody's doing it. I guess he felt like, well, hell, I'm going to make an easy little money and just move on. And that's the way it is right now, because he doesn't have there's nobody in front of him that's pushing him. He doesn't have a rival. There's nothing there. There's just nowhere for him to go. So I'm not surprised at all that we saw this.
For the WBC belt, no less. But Justin saying there about Mr. Verhoeven, but he does have previous experience here at heavyweight. Back in 2014, as you can see on the screen, he took 2 rounds to knock out Janis Finfera. I wonder if this is going to get him ready some 11 years later for Usyk. UFO is his nickname. I'm a fan of that. Ended with a Norton 6 career, all 6 by knockout. And the fight before he fought Verhoeven, Mr. Finfera fought in Romania against old Huey Man, Strength Fury, getting knocked out in the second round. No other names of note on his record, but I think the point there is that Verhoeven does have some kind of boxing background, but apparently he's a decent kickboxer, so I'm told. One of the chats saying that's the main thing. I heard the venue was going to be a pyramid in Egypt. It was meant to be Joshua versus Verhoeven, says Thomas Newman. Usyk should have vacated all of the belts. Then he can do what he wants. Real bad luck for the WBC this. Yeah, the WBC have hit they're taking a bit of slack for it. Although I think it's going to be some kind of commemorative belt now on the line, apparently, instead of the standard WBC title. Captain Casual, that's Damo. He's also disappointed with the WBC title.
This would only be interesting if Verhoeven kicked him. And then we'd have something go on.
We've seen that before. Shoey Woman kicked Meatball McCann the other week.
As I said, that would only make this interesting if Usyk had to actually do real kickboxing. That's the only way that I would actually be interested in this at all.
One thing I was thinking, Justin, just before we bring Des in there, what happened to that I Visit crowd? Ed Pereira, do you remember? He said that he'd signed Usyk and he's going to promote him in July on the West Coast.
I don't know.
He's an A-level grifter in here. Where's he gone?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I believe about 1% of that was actually real, because that was so extremely random, out of nowhere, that I want to sign for some dude that half the people have never heard of, and then I'm just going to fight on the West Coast of the United States. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe. But you remember Dillian White, look at the great career he had. He was a kickboxer, so Verhoeven could follow in the Dillian White shoes, and this could be his launching point.
Well, I don't know.
I'd have more interest I'd have more interest if he kickboxed Dillian White than I do Usyk.
Well, I don't know. Just before we bring Chukwu in, I have a feeling it might not be Chukwu. Des, some people are saying that this will be competitive, as Rico is a dominant kickboxer. He's not just a flash in the pan. You have to think, though, given the respective styles, Usyk's ring craft, his mobility, it's going to be too much for an unnatural combat fighter to try and plant his feet. What about the other side of the argument? I've seen people mentioning, Des, the heavyweight division is pretty weak. All the other guys have done it. Anyone half decent. Usyk's already beaten them, mostly twice. He can call the shots now. Turkey's obviously dangled a circus fight payday in front of him, and he's accepted and says, everyone else is doing it. Why can't we?
Yeah, and that probably plays into the argument of where boxing's going now, doesn't it? And it's a sport without any governance. It's a sport that's probably I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here, Steve. I'm going to probably depress everyone, but boxing has really let itself down in the last 10 years. And it's almost like said, look, we're not going to have any standard. We're not going to hold ourselves to a standard, and we're just going to earn as much money out of it as we possibly can. And if you think about the last 10 years, guys that could have been great for boxing have either been overhyped and a massive letdown, or have worked really hard to get there and decided to take their foot off the pedal. So, when you think about, Tyson Fury and the inactivity he's had, and then the fights he chose to take in terms of like the Derek Chisoras and the Dillian Whites and the Ngannou fight, that's really hard for boxing to come back from. And you look at, the inactivity of Anthony Joshua and his resume, and the fact that people like Tyson Fury call themselves the greatest of all time, but they've only beaten 4 world champions. It's a real shame of this era because the fights are there. There's loads of good fights that Tyson Fury could have had. There's loads of good fights that Anthony Joshua could have had. They're just not having them. And Usyk has fallen into line with that. He's now fighting a kid that can't possibly beat him. Absolutely no chance at all. And the argument could be, well, we like to see Usyk active, so why don't he have an easy one? I get that. But an easy one would be Fraser Clark at the county ground. You'd sell the place out, it'd be pay-per-view, we'd all like to see him. That's the equivalent of Ali boxing Brian London. I was around when Lennox Lewis fought Glenn McCrory. You can do that. You can pick out a Riakporhe or someone like that and say, do you know what, I'm going to have an easy one. I'm still going to train hard, but this ain't going to be a super fight because I've had a few of them and now I deserve to take my foot off the pedal for a bit. But this is the pendulum has swung too far. And we're in a situation in boxing where our fighters just ain't active enough. They can have a big fight, fall off a cliff, might retire, relinquish all the belts. We don't know whether we're coming or going with it. There's no governance to this. So there's no league format. There's no domestic cups. Fighters are being paid so much money now for one night's work. We can actually create a circus and just hang around till we get paid loads more money, shed loads of money. And if that takes 18 months, 2.5 years, so be it. We're getting a career's money in one fight. We're getting a 1 in 10 super fighters. We're getting Oscar De La Hoya money in 2 fights in the case of people like Conor Benn that are splitting 15 to 20 million fighting Eubank Jr. in a fight that was pretty much of a level of an English title fight. The pendulum has swung too far the other way. And I hate to say this because I'm all about fighters, but fighters are being paid too much money and it's really stagnated our sport. And I understand why they're all jostling for position now. And I understand why they want to get, we're going to pay him more money to get him away from that company and we're going to put on a big show. But the standard of boxing has never been so low. And I'm someone that's been in boxing for 35 years, been all around the world with it. I've never had as much least interest in boxing as what I have now. And this typifies it. And it will sell and people will watch it. There's a lot of things people watch. It don't mean it's good though.
Des, you do realise that your call for Fraser Clark versus Usyk in the county ground is just one step away from Usyk versus Dave Allen in Palms Ford.
Yeah, possibly. But like if you go back in time, like the brilliant Muhammad Ali, the greatest of them all, did come and fight Brian London. And if you think about guys like Mike Tyson did fight Julius Francis. I know he was on a comeback trail. He did fight Lou Savarese. People like Evander Holyfield did fight Bobby Size. These guys were never going to win, should never have won. And the brilliant Lennox Lewis, in between Gary Mason, Tyrrell Biggs, and Razor Ruddock, he fought Glenn McCrory coming up from cruiserweight. Like, you are allowed to have an easy one. Like, if not Fraser Clark, do a Martin Bakole in Africa. Do an FAA Jagbat in Africa. There are loads of options. But we're being told all the time these fights can't happen. But why can't they happen? And if you take it over to Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, who have been our flag carriers for the last 10 years, and they've both, at moments, done brilliant things in boxing. But there's never prolonged it. It's never been sustained. And there's so many... And when we talk about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, it can't be said about Oleksandr Usyk because he's been phenomenal up to now. But when we talk about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, I fear history will look back on them not very kindly. I think we'll look back at them and go, do you know what? You didn't fight each other. AJ never fought Wilder when he should have done. Fury, as easy it might have been for you, why didn't you fight a Stiverne? Why didn't you fight a Charles Martin? Why didn't you fight an Ortiz? I know you'd have beaten them, but why didn't you fight them? Why did you pick Derek Chisora 3 times? Why did you pick up the Dillian White fight? Why did you fight Ngannou? These were moments when you could have taken on guys from the top 10 and cemented a legacy. Look, they're always going to sell. They're always going to put bums on seats. But that doesn't mean the standard is high. Remember, 15 million people used to watch Coronation Street, Emmerdale Farm, and EastEnders. Don't mean the acting was of a higher standard.
A couple of globe-trotting ones to add to your list as well. I was thinking there, Des, Muhammad Ali, Al Blue Lewis in Dublin, and Lennox Lewis went to Dublin to beat Justin Fortune, if you remember.
Yeah.
He beat Justin Fortune. I think that was around the time he beat Justin Fortune, just before. I think he fought Glenn McCrory around the early 90s, late 80s, Steve, I think.
Yeah, I think it was
That's
after
exactly what I'm
McCrory.
talking
Yeah,
about.
I think the
Ali
over-under
fought
is
at Croke Park.
Yeah. I think the over-under is will both guys dress as a pharaoh? I'm imagining at least one will. You know one of them will. I can bet you $1,000 one of them's going to come out in the full pharaoh outfit. That's the only thing I'm waiting to see. They might both have to come out, but when the Irish guys fight, they got to dress as leprechauns. I imagine if you're over there at the pyramid, one of them has to dress as a pharaoh. It's just the point.
There you go. Rob Kelly's on the call. Can't guarantee what he's dressed as at the moment, or if he's even dressed at all, but we'll go to him shortly. Before we do, Jason Chukwu III, which might not be Jason Chukwu, has jumped on the call. Finally, some levity, some leverage with this fight, Mr. Chukwu. Turkey Al Sheikh said it's not fun, it's a dangerous fight. Ignore the haters. Mike Coppinger says, indeed, kickboxers have had a lot of success in heavyweight boxing. Vitaly Klitschko, Dillian White, Big Baby Miller, Alexander Povetkin. Forgot to mention Pele Reid. This isn't a wrestler boxing, Usyk. It's a man, Jason Chukwu III, who has knockout power and stands up when fighting. What are you saying?
I agree completely.
Come on, Coppinger. What are you saying?
I love the fight.
Why?
It's brilliant.
Tell us why.
I love the fight. I think it's fantastic. No, just jokes aside. Thanks for having me on, Steve. Hope you boys are all well. Been a while. I think boxing right now is a little bit schizophrenic. It doesn't know what its identity is. 1 minute it's pulling for the best versus the best with Dana White, and that would mean in the rankings you go for number 1 versus number 2 or wherever the challenge is, and the other minute we're pulling out super fights or fights that are Anti-Joshua versus Jake Paul. And the truth of the matter is the bottom line is it's all got to register on the scale of crossing over into the mainstream, and there are very few fights that do that, and they're seeing if Usyk can do that. He just come off of being in a movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They're testing his superstardom, and if he's an asset outside of just boxing, if he has that pull, and this is his opportunity to prove that or disprove that. Very few stars have the opportunity, and they see other people that make the decisions to see this as being the time to strike while that iron is hot, because it's not going to get any hotter off the back of Anti-Joshua wins, Fury wins, Dubois wins, whatever it may be. And unfortunately, Fabio Wardley or Ajit Cabello just don't make the grade when it comes to that. So it's a shame in that sense, and it might as well be John Jones, might as well be Chris Jericho, whatever the hell it is. It doesn't really matter if it's Rico Verhoeven, irrespective and respect to his achievements. He is the guy in the opposite corner in this equation. But yeah, I think for me, the bottom line is when you look at it, is some people like Pepsi, other people like cola, but the guy who's selling you the product owns both. And you can have whatever you want. You can dip into whatever you want, and you can have your issues with whatever you want. But that person owns both or all of the versions of boxing. And some people are gonna like it, some people aren't. But you'll get that in different events. You'll get a little bit of different flavor of that product in a different event, and it's keeping, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but in terms of a traditional sense, it's keeping boxing going. It's bringing bigger nights, but on the smaller scale, you look at events on the smaller scale, and they don't get even half of the spotlight or half of the opportunities that some where a lot of the money is going right now, and that'll take its toll over the years. But the other side of it as well is you'll bring in the likes of Netflix, Sky back into the game, Paramount back into the game, maybe Top Rank comes back into the game as well, and then the landscape becomes a lot more healthier. There's a lot of ifs and variables right now, and a lot of things need to shake itself into place. And I don't really know what that answer or whatever the landscape looks like, but I didn't mind Fury versus Ngannou. I don't particularly mind Usyk versus Verhoeven, but I am on the side of that Usyk shouldn't be fighting Verhoeven, and he should be fighting Wardley or Caballero.
Which one, if you had your choice at the two of them, Wardley or Caballero?
Either or. To be honest with you, I mean, the WBC belt is on the line for this one, so Caballero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Is the WBC belt on the line? I've seen conflicting reports. It's going to be a commemorative belt. I believe that they are sanctioning it as a voluntary, but there's conflicting reports. Maybe am I getting that wrong?
I think the most up-to-date update on this is that the WBC belt will be on the line, so Caballero can have a gripe.
Do you reckon you're going to go out to it, Ames? I've been to Egypt. It's nice, very hot though.
You've been? You must have been.
Yeah.
What was it?
On our honeymoon, we went to Cyprus and Egypt, man. Yeah.
Who's that fella?
Climbing.
Who's that fella that Andy said you were like?
Who's
when
that?
you turned red like a beetroot.
Oh, I can't remember. Sounds like me
Yeah.
though.
Possibly I'll be there. I've been doing a lot of traveling recently, which is great, but need a bit of rest as well.
Yeah, got to take some rest. One person who will be out there in Egypt, I have no doubt, is rapping Rob Kelly.
I will, yeah, I will. I get well, I could be. You never know, because I could, depending on obviously demand for my services, I could end up in Egypt, and if that is the case, you will hear me talk about this as one of the greatest bouts that was ever made between two titans in their respective sports. Crossover sport is where it's at. This is the future. The best fight the best in multidiscipline combat. But if I'm not getting a
combat crossover, I love it, Rob.
This is it. Yeah, when I would sell that one till the fucking cows come home if I was on the payroll of His Excellency, like Mike Coppinger and the boys. But unfortunately, I'm not. So I'll have to just give my honest opinion on it. What a load of shit! Like, Usyk gets a freebie with this one, doesn't he? Because they're all at it. Like, you know, they're all at it. AJ's had his Jake Paul fight. He's had his fucking Ngannou fight. Fury's had his Ngannou fight. Why not? Usyk wants a piece of the pie as well. Give him a fucking knockover job against a fucking kickboxer who doesn't deserve to be in the ring with him as a boxer. There's no jeopardy to Oleksandr Usyk in this fight. None whatsoever. The Ngannou thing with the punching power for Fury was because Fury was on one of his fat world tours again, wasn't he? He was fucking partying and drinking, going around in his Versace suit with his fucking bare belly out like for 6 months, didn't train, didn't prep, up all night, partying, and got caught slipping. Like, probably should have lost that fight actually. But that didn't do anything for the sport. The Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua thing, it doesn't do anything for the sport. These crossover fights that they keep on saying, oh, it's going to put more eyes on boxing. No, it doesn't. It only does for like 5 minutes and then everybody goes back to doing what they were doing. The Misfits hasn't put more eyes on boxing. Jake Paul hasn't put more. They put more eyes on it temporarily, but they haven't given it any or kind of seeded any long-standing interest with the fans. And I get what Des were saying about like Ali and Al Blue Lewis and the lads taking. I get it, like, but that was at a time where there was an abundance of other good shit. At the moment, this is just like a zombie apocalypse. Boxing is at the moment. We're just fucking stumbling through fucking, aren't we though? Like, so stumbling from time period to see what's next on the horizon. Oh, hold on, there's some hope. What is it? Netflix right there. Oh, it's fucking Floyd and Manny too. Jesus Christ, they're both 50. Oh God, this is it. Like, yeah, it's getting harder and harder to defend the sport. It's getting harder and harder to give a flying fuck about the people involved in it. And unless there's a massive turnabout from His Excellency, me and him might be about done now. So this is his last chance saloon. If any of his people want to get in contact and give me that contract that I will happily take to shill for him. Other than that, I'm going to be.
You close to writing him off, are you, Rob?
I'm very close. Yeah, like anybody that would invest like at the start, I thought like his intentions were good and this is good. He's going to make the best fight the best. Oh, look what he did. He gave us Baturbia versus Bivol twice. Well, I wanted to see that fight. Like, and that fight would have never happened. And then I wanted to see Errol Spence fight fucking Terence Crawford, and that one would have never happened. And oh, look, we got Canelo versus Crawford. Well, I didn't want it, but I got it, and it's exciting, isn't it? It's getting people. It's the best fighters in the sport fighting each other. That's something at least. And then it all started to go to shit in it, like, and then you start to see the Zuffa boxing thing come up. Like, the best thing that happened with Zuffa boxing was that Joe Ward got a pro contract with a promoter. I think that was well deserved. I think he's a good light heavyweight, probably deserved more for the sport. Got very unlucky breaking his leg on his debut. Probably could have gone and done something. But if you're fucking trusting Dana White to run boxing for the future, and one of the first moves he makes is to sign Conor Benn for a £15 million fight versus fucking Regis Prograis. I don't know, like, I don't know if it's I don't know if they got this one right, you know, that way. And at the same time, when I feel like he gets fed up of it and he decides he wants to do something else, I don't know where it leaves everybody else. So I know it's very hard for the listeners to hear us fucking constantly bang on about how shit things are, but it's not our fault. Like, we're not fucking making the fights. Like, I don't want to see one of the greatest heavyweights. Pump the brakes on that, actually, by the way. I don't want to see one of the greatest, arguably the greatest cruiserweight of all time, and a fella who's in an argument to be one of the great heavyweights fighting a kickboxer when there's a ton of heavyweights that deserve a chance, deserve a pop at that crown. Like, these guys have held it up between each other for as long as possible. For the last 5 years, Usyk, AJ, and Fury have held up the heavyweight division with all these unification bouts. None of the Mandos have ever got a fucking close to getting a shot. Joe Parker, these guys, Zhang, all these guys waited in the wings. You know, even Wilder versus Chisora, like, fucking give me a break. Like, can we see something new and exciting? So I kind of sound like I'm in a bit of a rant mode there, but Usyk to Zuffa, fucking hell, that's not the best for me. Like, especially when the other heavyweights are not going to be signed to Zuffa. So, like, what happens here? Like, as AJ's on
You're right. You're right about Netflix, though, Rob. I like your point about that. It's not building to anything, is it? Think about it. Manny versus Floyd, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, Jake Paul versus AJ. Canelo gets beat by Crawford. Crawford retires. There's nothing building to anything.
It's just sideshow, isn't it? The whole sport's just fucking sideshow now, though, isn't it? Like, so, the Floyd and Manny thing, like, we always knew they'd fight again. I thought maybe like they'd leave it 2 years and they'd make it somewhere interesting. I guess the only interesting thing in the Floyd Manny rematch is that Manny's been active and he should have probably beaten Mario Barrios not so long ago. Floyd has been arsing about, doing these half-ass exhibitions. Maybe fucking Manny knocks him out, and that's what everybody who's watching is going to want the outcome to be. So maybe Manny fucking knocks him out after all these years, and there's some kind of interest in that. But it's even tragic that fucking Floyd, somebody who's accumulated all that braid in his career, is forced back to the ring. Like, no, forced back for 500 million or whatever, you know. Force me, I'd fucking force me onto the undercard, like, if you're giving me a split of that bread. But shocking state of affairs. Like, but other than that, everything looks rosy.
And everything's lovely. Thanks for coming on, Rob. Like and subscribe there, everybody, if you're listening. Rob's absolutely right, though. I wasn't going to touch on Mayweather Pacquiao, but we might as well, because it sort of leads through just in that circus element from Usyk against Verhoeven. Where does it end with Floyd, though? Because he's shown that he can't look after his money. No judgment. He can spend his money on what he wants. But, I mean, at the end of the day, when's it going to end? Like, if he keeps spending his money, he's going to have to keep coming back. And if he keeps coming back, he's going to run the risk at one point that it's all going to go tits up and people are going to finally get what they want, and that's to see him losing. So there's no... What's the end game for Floyd here? When will this stop?
Well, I don't think Floyd is the guy who plans too far ahead, obviously. So I don't think he... Honestly, if you have to look at this fight and we have to talk about it, think about it, at least Manny fought a real fight recently. A legit fight. Floyd hasn't fought a real fight in years. We're talking about years. McGregor wasn't a real fight. So at least Manny has a huge advantage that he has been in a legit fight and he with a real fighter. So I would lean Manny in that fight if we were going to predict. I just think Manny will beat him this time because Floyd hasn't done shit in years. But you're right. I mean, if Floyd if he's that bad with his money, which they're saying he is, he can't stop. He's going to have to keep doing this until it gets to the point of he physically can't do it. We don't need to. I mean, he'll be Oliver McCall. He'll be 58 years old, still trying to fight somebody. And I don't care. I don't really care about Floyd's money situation. That's his stupidity. I mean, how in the hell do you blow that much money and then struggle? But we know Manny's all about money because they're both. That's the sad thing about it. They're both fighting because they're both horrible with money.
Yeah, he's a spender too.
Yeah, they're both awful. Yeah, they're awful with money. I think Manny has like a village he takes care of so many people that are hanger-ons, so he has to keep going. But Manny's the sad one as well, because if you can't live in the Philippines with his money, give it up. I think the average salary is like $5 a day, and I mean this is so poor, and he can't make it there. Then what the hell is he doing with his money as well? So this is just a fight between two guys that can't get, that really only reason they're in the ring is because they're just god awful with money, and we have to hear about it and see it. But this will sell. Floyd and Manny will sell it. You know it will. They'll both make a lot of money off of this. I mean, hell, Manny made money off fighting a hologram. So God, he can fight anybody, and they're still going to pay.
Wasn't he supposed to be fighting Provodnikov or something?
Yeah.
What is it with all these fights? And then Mayweather was supposed to be fighting Tyson.
Yeah.
What is it with all these fights?
Well, Tyson is still not giving up on the Floyd fight. I think he's like, it's still probably going to happen regardless of what happens with, like, Tyson will get the winner. Could you imagine Mike Tyson fighting Manny Pacquiao, the size differential?
But I think Mike Alvarado's in the background just rubbing his hands like someone pick up the phone. Fucking hell.
I mean, it's crazy, but Tyson is still holding he's still there. I mean, it's crazy. I believe though that Manny will win this time because he's just it's that.
Yeah, you'd have to make Pacquiao favorite this time.
Because he pushed Barrios. He looked okay at times versus Barrios. Mayweather hasn't done anything. But hell, I don't know if I'm going to take the time to watch it. I probably will because we're all sick about shit like
Floyd will probably have to have another therapeutic use exemption to rehydrate to 147 pounds, the weight that he walks around at.
Well, Manny will be taking his usage as well. So
let's hope so.
At least we'll know they're both going to be on the same level as far as that goes.
Manny will have so much fucking HGH allegedly in his system that night that they'll need fucking somebody to carry his body and his head into the ring. They'll need fucking like a. If you're complaining that his head weighed him down like Wilder's fucking army suit that time when he came into the fucking, he's going to be.
I don't think we're going to have
gills in it, like.
We're not going to have 24/7 testing. I don't think for that fight, so we ain't got to worry about that. But
let's hope not.
It's crazy. It's just I don't know what to say about it. It is what it is now.
They're going to be fucking. They're more likely to do fucking prostate exam than a fucking drug test in this one. Like the two boys, like 50 fucking years of age.
We all know if it's a good fight, they're going to keep fighting. There might be Floyd Mayweather 7 before this is all said and done because they've got no. I mean, as long as you're willing and people are willing to give them money, we've seen now.
Come on, don't depress me, man. Fuck's sake, it's bad that I have to. I don't want the trilogy happen at this stage. Like Jesus Christ,
the AARP belt. I mean, they are going to keep going and going, but it's sad in a way though that when people just can't take care of their own house and they've got to keep doing this, that it makes you feel like, make sure I check my finances because fuck, they just can't. It's just stupid anyway. But they're going to keep going. Tyson, we'll see. I guarantee you, we'll see Tyson in the ring versus somebody again because he's already throwing out comments. He can't give it up either. It's never going to. Some people just can't stop. They can't.
Suppose like us, really. Netflix is to blame.
Where someone to talk. Fucking hell.
Mike Tyson is scheduled to be in the ring with Floyd, isn't he? Floyd's got like
April.
How many fights he's got? He's got some Greek fellow over in Greece. Apparently, Bugsy Malone is going to fight him. You've got this Manny Pacquiao rematch, and then you've got Mike Tyson as well. So he's lined himself up. He's like a prospect back in the game with the amount of fights he's got this year.
Floyd's like a journeyman. He's scheduled all his fights like 8 in ahead. So I guess he figures he won't lose any of them or he won't get hurt.
World War III is kicking off now, so I'm sure he'll have to show solidarity with some of his friends soon as well. So he'll probably have a trip booked out there. Fuck's sake.
He'll find a way. Ames, you like me though, aren't you, man? I know the boys are talking about Pacquiao, and it does kind of make sense that Pacquiao's the fresher, he's fought the proper fight, etc. But Floyd's still got the brains, he's got the reach, he's got the ability. He's going to find a way to win this.
Yeah, I'd back Floyd in a rematch against Pacquiao. I just think with age, a fighter like Manny, those strengths that he had diminish with the age, and he's looked I saw up close his open workout for that rematch with Mario Barros, and he was just well off the pace watching that. And then in the fight, he just looked a shell of himself. And all intents and purposes, I thought at the time Mario Barros was taking it easy. I mean, Mario didn't really show too much in that fight against Ryan Garcia, but I think he definitely could have pressed on the gas against Pacquiao and made that win or it was draw, wasn't it? Whatever it was, he could have had more of a decisive win against Pacquiao, who's there for the taking. Even with a shoulder repaired or whatever it is, I don't think Floyd's too savvy for all that sort of stuff. And I think he's still got the reflexes, that IQ, like you say, is just going to be too much for Manny. I'd be surprised.
I disagree, guys. I in some of those exhibitions that I saw with him, I think he's lost more than a step, and he looks out of shape as well these days. I don't know. I think Pacquiao's the favorite because I don't think, all those things that Floyd would have used to his advantage in the first fight that made the fight terribly boring to watch, I don't think he has all that anymore. So I would favour Pacquiao.
I wonder why he took it though, man. He's the ultimate strategist, isn't he? With regards to timing and fight.
Well, he fucking needs it, isn't he? He's suing Al Heyman. He's suing Al Heyman for 500 million or something, isn't he? Or Showtime. So yeah, somebody has his money, and he wants it.
This is not a strategy this time with Floyd. This is I've got no damn choice with Floyd this time.
He fights Pacquiao and beats him, and then he gives himself a couple of years extra currency to do a few more fights, doesn't he? With a Jake Paul, with a Khabib or a McGregor or whoever the hell they want to put him in. He puts him back into the picture of Turkey Al Sheikh. He'll probably want to do something with him as well. Maybe try and get him in with a Conor Benn or Ryan Garcia for a legit world title. That's what Floyd's. It comes down to money, doesn't it? But I think he's lost relevancy within the pop culture and all that sort of sphere. And I think he's craving a bit of that back.
We've definitely jumped the shark. If we see Floyd fight for a world title in the next 2 years, it's over. If we see
Conor Benn,
yeah,
in Tottenham Hotspur, Floyd coming out in an Arsenal shirt. See it now.
Yes, that's it. That would be officially it. That would be the end of it. That would be. There's no point of. We'd have to give up. There's nothing left.
I was
Ray Parder doing a ring walk with him.
There's a lot of suing going on at the moment. Obviously, there's rumours that Frank's going to sue Turkey. Don King's suing, I think, Turkey at the moment, and Michael Hunter and all. I was flicking through. I think it was the Floyd documents to the Al Heyman Showtime Stephen Espinoza suing. I think it was like a 55-page document. I think Dan Raphael put it out. I was flicking through that, and some of it was actually really funny. Like they took Floyd's purse for the Berto fight out of his earnings or something from one of his previous fights. There was some proper shenanigans going on. To be fair, Floyd has got a case, but how he's pissed through all this money, I don't know, man. Anyway, a prime Floyd with a strategy is unbeatable. A 50-year-old Floyd with a strategy is just a 50-year-old Floyd. Well, that's the thing. I'm overestimating Floyd's intellect here, possibly, and thinking that he's coming back with a strategy in mind. And as Rob rightly says, he's probably just coming back because he's flat broke. I think if the control's taken away from Floyd and he's coming back out of necessity rather than choice, then that's when he's in danger of losing. And that's when I think you guys might be right about Pacquiao being the favourite or whoever he fights afterwards. At some point, if he's getting forced out because he can't pay his bills or he's got no money, that's when he's in danger. Because he through his whole career, he's been the choice master. He's picked and chosen very wisely and astutely in line with his outstanding ability to get to the point that he is now. But whenever that choice gets taken away from him and he's coming out because he has to pay bills, then he's at risk of losing a fight. That all sounded quite good, didn't it? I just come up with that. Anyway, anything else anybody wants to throw in before we finish off for the evening? Feel free. Rob, did you see anything from the weekend? There wasn't really that much, was there, to get excited about? No? Rob, anything? Navarrete?
Yeah, sorry, I thought I was on mute there. Navarrete surprised me because I thought he was going to have gone to the well one time too many, but no, nothing. I saw that Ryan Garcia just tweeted that handed Devin Haney's brother his first amateur loss. Garcias don't lose to Haney's. That was pretty fun. That's about the highlight of us, really. Fucking about the highlight of the weekend. Nothing to add at 5 to 10. for you, Steve, unfortunately.
No, exactly. You're right. You keep me on the right path here. Yeah, aircraft carriers mentioned Elijah Pierce. I couldn't find that fight. I wanted to see the fight between him and Lorenzo Parra, but couldn't get hold of it. He got battered in 2 rounds, so I feel sorry for him there. Did you see anything from the weekend worth commenting or anything that you've come across over the week?
Nah, nothing. Apart from maybe like Floyd versus Edgar Davids or something like that as well.
Edgar Davids. Oh, dear me. Justin, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Thanks for Des as well. Ames, rapping Rob Kelly. One thing, actually, Justin, we were talking about crossover boxing earlier. Rob was obviously talking about it. What sports can we include in crossover boxing? So they're all coming over to boxing to fight for the crossover boxing championship. What sports can we include? So kickboxing, that's fair game, yeah, because Verhoeven.
We've
MMA.
we've already got MMA,
Kickboxing.
kickboxing.
Wrestling. The wrestlers.
Wrestling.
We had that Ben Askren, wasn't it?
Yeah, we could bring wrestlers. Like,
yeah.
We're talking about like WWF wrestlers, or are we talking like
nah, proper wrestlers. I suppose WWF as well, yeah.
I guess we've already
got
too.
Weightlifters, Eddie Hall. Bring him in.
Weightlifters, yes. He fought the good Game of Thrones guy, didn't he?
As far as fighting sports, I think we've already hit all those. I don't think of any other, unless you bring
arm wrestling.
Oh, the medieval
against arm wrestling.
You could bring the medieval fighting guys over with the swords and shit, and you could have Usyk versus one of those guys with a sword or some shit. You could do that.
We had a few footballers, haven't we? Curtis Woodhouse.
Curtis Woodhouse was a footballer, yeah, not the combat, but I'm liking that. They could come across. Freddie Flintoff, just about a boxer when he fought.
Anthony Mundine was technically a crossover fighter.
Yeah, rugby league, wasn't he came from? Yeah. No way.
Why don't we bring in Luke Littler?
Nah, he'd have no stamina, would he? What about your man Cameron Menzies, who punched the table? Although his hand's fucked now, so he won't be able to throw the right hand.
I don't know enough about darts, to be fair.
Oh, I don't mind a bit of the darts myself. Yeah, bare knuckle boxers, they can come over if they want.
Have Jackie Chan fighting Floyd on fucking Netflix.
Who would you put Frankie Dettori in with?
One of them women, atom weight.
One of the horses.
Call it fuckwits, says Thomas Newman. Fuckwits boxing, there you go.
We should put the Wolves players in and for a fight, and they can pick up some points that way.
They fall over too easily, you think? Oh dear. There you go. A bit of fun to end us. Episode 652. I've been Steve in the hot seat in place of Matty Leonardo. We'll be back next week, or maybe we won't. I don't even know. But we've been here this week. There's Rob. He's disappeared. He's had enough already. Take Ames has jumped on seconds out. Good to see him. Des was on earlier, lamenting the death of boxing. Hopefully he's all right. We'll check in with him. Thanks for Justin for coming on as well, and thanks to everybody in the chat. Let's give them a quick shout out because they've done their bit as well. 2 hours we managed tonight. We did pretty well. Thomas Newman, the aircraft carrier. 1SG UK says Thor fought an arm wrestler. Yep, that was what Ames was referring to earlier. I think the power lifter. Maybe he fought an arm wrestler as well. Don't know. Technique 539 is in the chat. AP631. Are these all bots or something? Chris Butler -X1E. Where's the likes of Jim McDonald and all these easy names? Michael Thompson 3286. Yumi Yappy 8179. These are all Russian bots. These are. Who else we got? Yeah, I think that's about it really. Oh, there's Take Ames 2192. He's even got a number after his name as well. City Bray. Justin Dull 7003. Captain Casual. DB4CF. Motor Skills 66. Desi Sanchez 1641. He disappeared quick enough. Didn't like the heat. Paul_Raftery as well. Right. We've had enough. Let's get the hell out of here. Thanks for everybody for listening. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. Well, maybe don't tell your friends, actually. Do your best. Download. We'll catch you all again. Same time, same place next week or the week after. Bye.